We're gonna start things off with a lovely. I usually have an intro video.
The slapping video?
Yeah, this is it. I usually start things off with an intro video. I forgot my laptop. So this is a funny video that Ilya and I did to mimic the Salt Bae. Everybody's seen Salt Bae, right? So we'll just have a little fun with this one first. Oh, wait.
It's a spoof. It's not serious, okay?
It's serious.
Total Slav.
I'm the producer and videographer of this here video. He's actually working too. Like, that really is Japanese steel. We went to Walmart and bought him that fresh tea for this video, very specifically. Gets better. Should be sound, right? No? Should be sound. Here we go. Very safe. Should start every panel like this. You too can make magic with an iPhone and $100,000 worth of blacksmithing equipment. He smacks it. He's smacking it. I made him do a couple takes of that just to mess with him.
Slav life.
The t-shirt wasn't tight enough. Notice he's got a little knot in the back. Okay.
I wish you still had the camera head.
Ah, bleh.
Anyway, hi guys. Thanks for coming. This is, I think, all of our first times at MAGFest, right? No? I mean, I've always supposed to come, and we always have like a filming thing or something weird that happens. So really glad to be here. We usually do mostly anime festivals, just how it works out. We started out doing Katsu and Otakon and stuff like that. So it's great to be here. I've been kind of playing games all day, so if you haven't seen me at the booth, I'm sorry. Just tried to play the PUBG tournament. Got 7th. It was all right. Anyway. How many here have not seen Man-at-Arms Reforged or Man-at-Arms Art of War? A couple of you? Okay.
Literally 2.
All right. Well, today's panel, we have a panel tomorrow as well that will go in more in depth on some historical stuff. Today's panel is kind of just like an intro, give you guys an inside look. You guys get to see the show. You guys don't really know how we make it though, right? We're going to have some fun. We're going to laugh. It's going to be funny. I make fun of Ilya and vice versa. But please, feel free to ask questions. We will obviously, we will stop several minutes before the end and make sure we get everybody's questions. But if you have a question that pertains to exactly what we're talking about at the moment, hands up. Yeah. Would you like to talk? Can I have this? Thank you. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. Bill, say something. Say some things, Bill.
This is what I have to work with every day. That's no joke. There are times we get along, and then there's times we don't get along, but this is every day.
Just Man-at-Arms panel, blah, blah, blah. Just call it like Man-at-Arms panel.
And if he's not doing it to Matt, he's doing it to me, or vice versa, or
Thanks,
it just
bud.
goes around.
Anyway, Man at Arms. It's filmed at Baltimore Knife and Sword. Our shop's not actually in Baltimore. It's just outside Ellicott City. We used to be in Baltimore at the Clipper Mill, and we've moved several times since. Yes. What's the beginning? I guess the beginning is when Tony Swatton was the original host. Anybody familiar with the original? He asked me out for season 4. And he said, hey, would you come out and be a guest artist? I was like, oh, okay, cool. At the same time, I met Natasha, and I flew out there and made the most out of that trip. And, yeah. So I enjoyed it. We made, like, a couple cool things. Phoenix Trident, helped him figure out how to make the Thor's hammer that he did an awesome job. That was cool. I pretty much spent 8 hours just cutting the meteorite for...
Zuko. Huh? Zuko.
Yeah, Soka's whatever. Blah, blah, blah. So I literally spent 8 hours doing that. It's not how you make meteor sword, but it's okay. He found that out the hard way. But I had a good experience. And then Tony did another season or 2 after that, I believe, and then decided it was just too much work for him. Unlike our crew, it's kind of just him. He's got some helpers, but like he's whatever. He's the main craftsman of that shop. So he decided he wanted to do it. Defy Media searched around forever for different shops, came up with different concepts to continue the show. I helped them plan here and there. Actually, to be honest, I didn't return their calls or emails for a long freaking time, 3 or 4 months, because I just didn't want to have anything to do with it. But all signs ended up pointing back at us. We're one of the only shops really in the country that can handle that kind of output. We got a fellow blacksmith over here who can tell you we make 6 episodes from start to finish in 8 filming days. So when you guys saw us make Optimus Prime, at the same time we made whatever the hell else we made all of those in 8 days. Sometimes if we get a sponsorship, we can push that to a 9th filming day, and we do have a weekend in between. And it's not a traditional 9 to 5 job, like where we get there sun up and we work until we can't work most of the time. So for Optimus Prime, we literally had 4 or 5 full days. Would you like to talk? I mean, you can tell him I'm just gonna get to you in a second. Speechless Ilya, that's amazing, it's a first.
Checking out the setup. I mean.
So the way we found Ilya is we actually used to have Tony Swatton out to our shop here in Maryland for an annual blacksmithing event called Fire and Brimstone, where we have blacksmiths and swordsmiths and all kinds of people come from all over the country / world to do different things. And Tony had to cancel, so we were looking for somebody else to come out and demonstrate how to do some raising and some armor work. And Ilya had just moved here. Awesome. Blue screens are cool. Ilya had just moved here to DC for school, and he reached out to Carrie, or Carrie reached out to him. I don't know. Hey, look, here we are.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our
Hello.
360 around
Hey,
the anvil.
how are you
video.
doing?
What we're gonna
It's cool.
It's love life.
Look here. You don't need to look there. So he came out. He did a metal face, all raised, hot work, crazy. It was awesome. Loved it. Basically asked Carrie if we could keep him, and he's been around ever since. He started off just doing sheet metal work, armor stuff, and engraving here and there, and slowly just started forging more and more swords, even though that made Sam very unhappy. Sam didn't want anybody else forging, and Ilya did it anyway after hours. And now he's the primary hot working smith in the shop. He likes to smack the billets and all that good stuff. Pretty much us three. Ferenc doesn't work at our shop every day. He does a lot of work with us, collabs with us. He's got his
They
own
don't want me around every
business,
day.
but he's another stock removal guy, I guess, technically, right? Yeah, stock removal, all 3 of us. He does sculpting, but mostly carving and stock removal. We do the blade grinding. But yeah, I could use someone else to talk for a second, so I can mess with you.
Does this work? That's fantastic. Now, prepare for the ultimate slavination of this particular panel. We're gonna do it Gopnik style, blять. Yeah, like your babushka never told you about, right? Good. Anyway, this is not my, well, that's partially my real accent. I'm originally from Russia, like Russia, Moscow. Moved here about, I don't know, like 15 years ago or so.
I think you're older than that.
No, exactly 15 years ago.
Wow.
I've been saying that for a long time. But, my primary education is in art history, philosophy, and Asian studies. It's actually been invaluable to what I do, getting that education. If you're very interested in doing stuff with your hands, the most important question in life you can answer for yourself is, in America, would be, why do baseball players bench press?
You can still say soccer
Well,
because they use their chest. So
all right, why do soccer players bench press? No. Well, what happens is you can be relatively successful at soccer without ever, working out your upper body. But you still do, and the reason is a more balanced physique informs the higher end of your output. In the same way, learning other languages, reading serious literature, not, pop literature, but like serious stuff, really develops the mind's eye to such an extent that you will always think and design things 4 to 10 steps ahead of anybody else. It trains your mind, and the mind is the thing that controls your hands. So, if the things that's in control of your hands is not trained, no matter how well trained your hands are, you're kind of screwed, right? Right. So, now, that has been the most valuable thing to me. Besides going to museums and looking at great masters like Bernini, Michelangelo, even some medievals who are usually anonymous. That's why they call them the Dark Ages, not because it was dark, but because artists never signed their own shit. Unlike in Japan, already in the 9th century, you have signed tangs. In Europe, you don't have signed work at that time. So Japan never had Dark Ages. This is boring for people, right? So Matt's
like
gonna
to-
talk about silly stuff now.
I don't have anything. No. Yeah. He just jumped right into the history, but we're gonna save most of that for tomorrow. How many of you have a build that you really want us to do that we haven't? Only 2 or 3?
Jeez.
Tell me
Okay,
what-
you.
Let's take it for example, because I'm sure there's a reason why we didn't do it.
Stabilizer Alfred is bolt weapon.
Don't know it.
It's a weapon that's more of, it's got like a really huge blade, but it's got
It's from Freezing, right? It's on the Freezing. Yeah, I try to watch that. Too depressing for me. I like it. I don't know. I got sad. I'm like, shit. No. I like my romantic comedies anytime over that.
His favorite animes involve cooking and ice skating, probably. No, Inuyasha is too much now for him. He's
A little
gone.
bit, yeah.
He's-
Well, some of it is pretty sweet and nice. No, but right now,
Anyway, the reason I asked you was just an example. We may know it, we may not know it. We actually, we have something to do with picking the builds, but it really isn't our job. Some people think that the All Me channel is our channel. We're literally just a show on that channel. So Defy goes through, they make an initial list, we make a few things. Hey, we noticed in the comments people are really begging for this or really begging for that. And hey, this new game's coming out, or this game came out, I'm playing this game, I'm really interested in making that. So that's how the list compiles. They can get automated things of what the most requested items are. I obviously don't have access to that on their channel. So they can tell us, hey, this is the most requested, we should roll with this. Hey, this game wants to do a sponsorship, let's try this on the list. And then, like I said, we have typically 8 days to make it. So we're gonna balance it out. So you might see us make something crazy like the Great Sword of Artorias, which was awesome, right? Gotta love that. Ilya knocked that one out of the park. And we actually made 2 of those. That's something you guys don't know. We made one before the filming session because we had to ship one to France for Dark Souls actual gaming convention that was there, and then we had to finish the one we did and put it right in a huge coffin-shaped box and ship it out to Salt Lake. I believe that's where it went, right, Utah, or Salt Lake? Something,
I don't
whatever.
know. I was not responsible for the shipping part.
Seattle.
Yeah.
I'm just responsible
So
for making
if
it.
we do something like that, then we're probably going to have to do something a little less, crazy to balance it out, and then some medium builds in the middle. But we try to at least every season have at least one far out thing that we make that people just go, oh my God, it's huge, or so many parts. Yeah, sure.
Do you ever think about making the Dark Souls 2 Dragon library?
I'll be honest, we love a lot of things from Dark Souls. We would make more and more. The spear is really cool. There's armor. There's tons of things from that. We hope to return to that. I can't tell you if we're gonna, but I hope to. That's never gonna get old. People are always gonna request it. Yeah. So we picked the main one. I think Great Sword of Artorias is pretty much what everybody really wanted to see. And the first one we made, didn't they tell us the handle was too long on the first one?
Hold up. The first sword we made that you never saw was from Dark Souls 2.
I wish I could take pictures.
And they sent us pictures from Dark Souls. They sent us the renderings and all blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, all
wrong
that
ones.
in-game stuff that other people don't have. So the handle was fairly long. The second time they asked us to do it, because the contract was for 2, and for the filming, it was from Dark Souls 3, with the Great Sword of Artorias is virtually identical, except the handle is half the size.
And black instead of brown.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Stupid. Whatever.
So, yeah, people...
And let's get there real quick. One of our biggest challenges that we all can say, and I mean, Ference has to deal with it, we have to deal with it, everyone on the team has to deal with it, is say, let's go to anime. Let's go to like the Dragon Ball Z when we made Trunks sword. Anybody like that one? That was pretty cool. I was a fan of that one. That's pretty neat. It's a very simple sword, really. It's got some tricky details here and there, like have to make the habaki work. The point is very specific and different from a normal Western sword. But for the most part, it's a pretty fairly simple sword. One major problem. Every scene, not just from episode to episode or game to game, every scene that it's shown different every single time. It's got a black handle, it's got a brown handle, the coins go up, the coins go down. There are no coins. There's a habaki that's this big, then there's a habaki that's that big. The blade's this thin, the blade's this thick. It's every scene it's different. So we knew on that one we had to kind of like meet somewhere in the middle, make as many people happy as possible. I think we did a pretty good job on that. But sometimes it's almost impossible. Things are, there's an axe and it looks like a realistic axe when you're looking at it like this. And then all of a sudden when you turn it sideways, the axe is this thick. So we're talking about an anvil on a wooden stick. The physics don't match up. We have to make some concessions. Sometimes we'll do it hollow. Sometimes you'll weld up a box essentially stick a stick in to cut the weight in half or way more than half. Sometimes we'll just have to cut the thickness down a little bit. But those builds, honestly, none of us really like to fake it. We really want to make the real thing. So a lot of times you'll see us just go ahead and be stupid and make something out of a huge blade or make it really thick and grind it and just go to it. Question right here?
So that leads me to a question. How many of the weapons that you make are actually like viable weapons, and how many of them are like just so impractical that to get them as accurate to the show, they couldn't be used at all?
Why don't you let Billy?
Honestly, I'd say about 90% of the ones that we make are not practical at all.
Now,
Now,
So
wait a
what are you
minute.
talking about? They
They're-
all smash 2-liter bottles, Bill.
Right. There are a couple that there have been done that could be and are legitimate swords. Karamoko is a prime example. It's a little heavy on the bottom end for a katana, but otherwise, and I cut with it, it cut beautifully.
Trunk sword wasn't that
Trunk
bad.
sword wasn't that bad. Urza's sword.
Almost
from-
all the Assassin's Creed stuff is pretty legit.
Assassin's Creed stuff is, I mean, the sword we have down at the booth weighs practically nothing and it cuts great. So
What's the
there are
one that
some-
surprised you the most?
Yeah.
I know what you're going to say.
surprised me the most.
That was actually a practical, usable weapon.
Well, besides Kill Bill.
The kun. Well, I know
Oh,
what
God,
he
no.
want, like the kunai. But here's the thing about the Naruto kunai, like throwing knives.
Hi, Rick.
It's not clear how historical kunai actually were, but the ones we made were like damn near an inch thick, but they plow through a 1 inch thick board to the other side, so it sticks
Oh
out.
yeah, we destroyed like serious boards. Huh? I don't know.
Or
Enough.
maybe a half a pound.
Question right here.
Pretty heavy.
So there's that internet joke about like 1,000,000 times folded time. How viable is that?
Not 1,000,000 times folded, but 1,000,000 layers is actually not crazy.
It's
No.
relatively common.
If you start from one piece of metal, you fold it, got 2. Fold it again, you got 4. Fold it again, you got 8, 16. Yeah, it goes up. So, and you usually don't start from something small there. So,
And you don't start with one piece of metal, you start from like
40.
a lot of
Little pieces.
small pieces. And the only reason why in Europe, as well as in Japan, as well as in other countries and regions of the world, steel and iron were folded is to push out the trash that's in there and to homogenize it. When you're working with traditional materials, folding makes your stuff better if you know what you're doing. When you're working with modern materials, folding makes your stuff worse, even if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally with the Japanese stuff, you fold it until you don't need to. You're not.
Yeah,
you're
I
not
don't
waiting-
count- I
you're
don't
not
count
going,
it.
It's not good enough. It's not 1,000,000 layers. It's like, oh, this material is now working right. I'm stopping. It could be 5 folds if you're lucky. It won't be, but it could be.
Well, some of the stuff I have, for example, you don't even need to fold it. If you like, you can consolidate and pull out a blade. It will have a lot of carbon in it, and you better know how to heat treat it. But theoretically, it's perfectly fine at that point already. It's very clean, very nice material. When the folding
Is there any questions on there?
million
Any
layers.
questions on the stream? No?
Eh.
One in the back over there.
Towards more, say, the traditional like blades, or do you like some of the unique suggestions people have, like say a pipe ball or like Toma 2, or like you focus mostly primarily on these blades themselves?
Did you say
Oh, no.
pipe bomb?
Pike ball. Pike ball. No. Look.
Giant iron ball with spikes on it. It's
Oh, okay.
Look,
all right.
like we jump at the if we have an opportunity to make something that's a legit weapon, more historical from an actual game or something, yeah, we usually jump on that. But at the same time, we know that people like to see some far out stuff. We know it.
Okay, he wanted to ask and accidentally pointed to you, and okay, you go. Red face. Yeah, a trip to Home Depot.
Yeah.
No, it's seriously making a chainsaw from scratch is a lot of time, and we have 8 days, so that's a nightmare.
That's only half his question, though. He said stuff for more classic stuff. Absolutely, we'll make classic stuff. Absolutely. Sure. Unfortunately, like Tony got his hands on a lot of the old school classic cartoon stuff before we could do some of it. We've done some cool stuff, right? We did He-Man. No, he did He-Man. We did
Whoa, hold up.
Voltron. We did Voltron.
The guy in the back lifted a bat'leth. I wanted to make the Sword of Kalis for a while now. Yeah, it's just, we need an opportunity when I have there's a scheduling. It plays well with other builds. So far it has not, but I would have loved to make it because in Deep Space Nine, it's just Damascus. Like it's blatantly obvious. It's actually easy. Like I don't want to disappoint you. It's actually easy but cool.
very
to
cool.
make it exactly like it is in the movie.
Let's do it. Let's get
not
a
the
quick-
movie, the show.
Another
sorry.
question, real quick, in the back. I see the knight, sir, Knight, sir, fella guy.
Yes, I have a question about any demand about, builds from the prequel series of Dark Souls, Demon Souls. That been
I've seen some. I mean, look, there's 6 million people on our channel, so like sometimes I don't. So no, not necessarily. I don't know. It's not. They're not gonna. Some of the obscure stuff, unfortunately, is not gonna get to the top of the list. It doesn't mean we're not gonna make it.
I've been the one who's pushing for obscure stuff anyway because
Could be an anniversary coming up that's relevant. We're like, hey, let's do the 30th anniversary of blah, 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 blah. And our producer's like, nah. And we're like, yeah. And they're like, nah. And we're like, well, then we're not gonna do what so.
I mean, I know there's a sword I'd love to make on the show that I know Matt doesn't want to make. Anybody here remember Dark Crystal? I would love to do it.
What are we gonna do for the demo? Hit some rocks?
Why not?
This is the dumbest thing ever. I don't get it. I've never said no, but there's plenty of
It's
other
not a
people that-
yes.
It's not a yes. I don't
But it's
get
one of
it.
those. It's a classic thing
It's
that would be
literally
cool.
ugly.
But whether it happens or not, that's one thing. It's just one
Will
of those things.
will
down
you be
road.
the cosplayer? Will you dress up as the?
Actually, I think I could have a cosplayer who does that
No,
really
no,
well.
no. I said you.
If I can fit in a suit, sure.
You know what
I'll
I want
make
to
a
make?
suit for you. Right here, purple monster hat guy. I like the hat. It's cool. Yeah, you.
Really, like, the main question I have is, what would you say to like somebody who's just starting off, just like see something like this, just finds it
Well, there's a lot of things we'll say. Ilya will tell you, go to school and become a dentist. Don't be a blacksmith. And that's not necessarily the worst advice. We got another blacksmith here, Arlen. Stand up for a second. He forges on Twitch as well. So met him through that. It's hard work, dude. I mean, we're lucky enough to be, even before the show, to have been well known at what we do. It's a long road before you're going to make any money. So it's really hard. You have to make sure you love it, and you should have another job. Don't think I'm going to quit school and become a blacksmith. That's horrible. Join your local blacksmith guild. There's most likely one. If you go on Google and your area code and the word blacksmith guild, you'll probably find one. Join it. It's really cheap to join one of them. You don't have to invest any money in tools. You can jump right in. They have the tools. They have the knowledge. There's old guys with beards that are just dying to tell you some shit. Okay? They're just dying to tell you how to do things wrong, and you have to figure it out on your own the right way, but they might know the traditional way. Read books. The internet right now is amazing. Not just our show. I mean, we don't really get into the how-to as much as we want to. We would love to do more of that, by the way, and hopefully that is coming. Some more breaking down
Learn
material.
other languages. Learn old
That helps.
world languages so you can read those 19th century manuals from Soligan, from all those centers of manufacturing in original, because they will never be retranslated. There's no demand for translating all those manuals. But they have the best advice. If you study other languages, you will always have an advantage over anybody of your peers.
And just remember, with blacksmithing, with knife making, sword grinding, anything like that, you can practice and do it all you want, and you may obtain the title of master. You'll never master it. I ground more sword blades probably than anybody else, at least in the English-speaking world, ever will even want to grind, and I still mess up all the time. Seriously, and things are a challenge. And I've ground that many swords, but I'd only primarily do flat grinding down the wheel. When I do a hollow grind, I have to stop, think, practice, that kind of thing. So, you're never gonna be the best. You're always gonna get better. You were gonna say something about what books to. For blacksmithing or for blade making? Oh, books specifically.
I had, as a kid, when I was living back in Russia, an old Soviet manual on blacksmithing. It's mostly architectural work, but it was, remembering it back now, the advice was absolutely phenomenal. Because it was showing the internal structure of your regular square bars as you're forging them, why you have to use certain dies to not destroy your material. It was showing the proper way of beveling stuff. It was for architectural stuff, not for knives, but in fact, I'm thinking of teaching people how to bevel properly, because I guarantee you, people forge out blades 90% wrong in the United States because they pinch out that bevel. That's wrong, wrong, wrong. If you try to do the same procedure on a piece of wood, you'll completely split it. Same thing happens with metal. You just don't see it. And if you try to work with multi-bar Viking swords, you'll always destroy your welds because you're doing it wrong. You always compress. And there's a lot of that information that is not published nowadays, and you have to look at near pre-industrial.
Oh my God.
You have to look at almost pre-industrial eras of publication where
Right.
the stress of the industry was on skilled labor rather than unskilled machine labor.
It's like exactly how we made it, dude.
And Solingen still has online the PDF of their 1907 instructional manual to every single incomer for their factory. You can still find it. But it's in German, so.
Thank you, the wonderful Natasha.
Yep.
Блять, hold up. I want other people to hear you too. If your voice is shot, don't stress yourself.
Yeah, you were pretending they were things and sticking them in my.
I
other
broke
thing.
one of them.
You broke one?
Yeah, I did. Some piece fell out of it, and it doesn't.
That's fine. Some piece fell out of it.
So yes, I had only not really heard much about you guys your first event, and I play a lot of with weapons and things, and I was like looking at a bunch of episodes. My question is kind of a two-parter. You said you love, you gotta love what you do. What's an experience where you kind of thought everything that I'm gonna do with this project is gonna go right, and it happened close as possible? And then an experience where you kind of had where things went wrong
I can
and
answer
it
that.
frustrated.
Yeah, I could.
Like those two, the difference between those two, like
Yeah.
and what happened and how did that feel and the experience between that?
Sure. Why don't you hold on to that? I'll do the fun one. How about that? One of the things that went wrong. We made Drax's daggers. Remember that? Pretty cool. Looked like a pretty simple episode. Everything went wrong. And not necessarily to the fault of just chance either. Certain things were done wrong that should not have ever been attempted. Certain dies that we made when we tried to, press the detail into the blade didn't work, so we ended up making like 4 different blades so we got it right. I carved the handle out of wood, and then Lauren made a mold, and she didn't put any talcum
Release
powder
agent
or
on the-
anything on the actual piece I carved, so the mold didn't work. So when
Oh,
we,
it worked. It just glued the master in there.
yeah, so when we pulled it out, it had like all the detail messed up, so I ended up having to, and like I said, 8 days, guys. We mess up in the casting, that's the one thing that we really can't go back and do.
Because it takes 2 days to set it up.
Instead of doing the lost wax casting that we were gonna do, we ended up getting, what kind of hell?
It's called Britannia.
Britannia.
It's like pewter, but not pewter.
Yeah, it's like a little harder than pewter, but it has a pretty low melting point. So I carved 2 waxes, and we did another mold of the wax, and then it was like, why did I do 2? Because then we only had one. Everything went wrong on that. They still came out pretty good. Would have loved some more details. The actual original Drax daggers are actually with Drax himself right now. He actually commissioned us to make him some. I said, well, you can have the ones we made on the show. So we actually sent them out to Batista, who's actually become.
Oh,
kind
didn't
of-
the shipping go wrong too? It was supposed to happen for like months, and
Probably.
that didn't happen too.
That usually happens. So that was one of those. You got one, Bill? You got one?
Actually, I'm sure Teddy.
Yeah, we were doing Green Lantern's ring, and I got the main block cut down to shape and everything. That's the one that you see Deadpool reach in and steal. That was the first one I did, because after I cut that one, it came back and it said, I gave you the wrong measurements. So now I had to cut a whole nother one.
even know if I knew
And now
that.
we've used up a certain amount more of time as well. So, it's things like that, and that one had to go double time. I had to carve that next beginning to that ring double time, and Carrie even asked me, said, how did you get this one done so fast when the first one took a lot longer? And I told him, I said, because I took a lot of chances that I normally wouldn't do, because that's what we had to do to get it done at that point.
Right.
So things go like that, and then that creates more challenges in a lot of different areas for everybody, because it's going to domino.
Yeah, it's totally a domino effect, like especially in the forging. Someone goes around the forging because it's forging, grinding, heat treating, polishing, all. So like something happens in step one that is complicated, and all the steps preceding have to, same thing. That always happens that way. I mean, any of the katana stuff you've seen us build, we got damn lucky. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, in the quench, you're risking stuff. And the time that we did Kill Bill, though, he hadn't really, I mean, he was just learning that stuff and jumped into it. Anything could have gone wrong there, and it luckily didn't.
You know, the first one that was like that was the Fierce Deity sword.
Yeah. And then right after that, the
Scissor blade. The first two that it's just completely stupid to do it like that. It's just no, it's just stupid. Like no one would seriously attempt that because it's stupid. Not because it theoretically worked and it did work, but it's just stupid to do it like the weld like that. But it worked.
Do you remember that one time, Bill, when the one dude went out to get our lunch and he got you the wrong thing?
Yeah.
What was his name? Was it Halston? Wasn't that his
Yeah,
name?
that was it.
I was kidding. Everybody, Halston here, he's from our crew. He works on the film crew. So he's on the, I was joking about the lunch thing. So it's nice to have him out here. We don't have our crew show up too often, but
He's
hopefully-
one of the guys who sees it at our worst on the last
Yeah,
day.
he's just like, oh, I'm pissed off. The last day, I'll get to your question. Put your hands down just for a moment. I'll get to you. We like to talk. That's one thing that we could never really convey on the show. Unless you really know us and see it in the demos. The last day is supposed to be beauties in the morning. So we do all those little push-ins and then we eat lunch, usually pizza, which is awful, and then immediately do the demos. It's not that the pizza's awful, it's that you're stuffing yourself and then you have to go perform.
With sleepy food.
But let me tell you, we're usually up at least till like 12:30, usually like later the whole night, trying to get things finished, and then we're working in the morning. Like when you see things sit on that anvil, many times the paint's not dry yet if we had to paint it.
It's drying as you watching
It's hot. Because we just buffed it, it's like, it's all that kind of stuff. If we had to glue a piece on, that glue's still wet. You just can't understand the level of, stress isn't a fair word. It's just maddening to get things done in that time.
And like you think like, oh, by the time I come, because I live in DC, right, and I drive basically to Baltimore every time. So as I'm driving, oh, I hope Carrie did that. I hope Matt did that. You come in like, no one touched it.
No.
Everybody forgot that had to be done.
Yeah, there's
And
always
that's
something.
beauty day. Like, boom. And like, all right, 4 energy drinks, and no one talked to me. Ooh. And then the camera guy with the producer. Can I film that? Sure, I'm doing it. Can you wait?
Nope.
Can you push the demo? No. Well,
So
too bad.
there's a lot of that. And because of that kind of rush, it's unfortunate, but that's the way we get to make such a high quality show just for YouTube. I don't know if you noticed, most YouTube shows don't have that level of lighting. Like the crew, like Austin and a lot of those guys, the lighters, everything, gaffers, everything. They usually work on things like Veep or House of Cards, stuff like that. So they're making pretty legit shows, and then they come and they film with us. So one of the ways to keep the cost down is to do it quicker. It's really crazy that we even said yes to the first time, but we're starting to learn how to deal with that stress. It's just a thing. It's just a thing now. We've been doing it for what, 3.5 years? TV shows the same damn way. It's worse. TV show. Who's actually seen the TV show? Not Reforged. What the hell is it called?
Like
Art of War.
Art of War.
You don't count.
Like
2
6 of
people, 3 people.
So it's on the El Rey network.
He
was on
you don't
it,
count.
It's on the El Rey network.
Like
It's
2 or
it's
3
a smaller
people.
network. It's up and coming. It's Robert Rodriguez's network. It's awesome. Word's still out on us doing another season. Pretty sure we feel good about it. So hopefully that'll
Might or
happen.
might not happen.
That one's even worse, dude. There's multiple heads, multiple producers. They all don't know what the other one's doing. They want us to talk a lot, and it just turned out to be a damn good show. I mean, it's just they overfilmed too much, and we knew it the whole time because we've done this for 3.5 years. They hadn't, and they want all this and all this, but we knew the editing. We've been here, we've done that. So hopefully the second season, if it happens, will run a lot more smoother. But man, it's a lot more work. A lot of talking. They want more reality. More reality, whatever that is. But
Unlike the YouTube, when we make comic book stuff, we can take certain things lightly. With the El Rey Channel show, a lot of the things that the channel asks us to make, religious objects from a living culture. And they want reality filming us making religious objects from a culture to which we don't belong and whose language we don't speak.
Yeah. So there's a lot more attention to detail.
And I tell them,
It's
well,
even
you have to
worse.
film it that way, but no, that's not the format. Like, well, you know, you're making something that people who literally cut each other's heads off care about.
Yeah. So that's a whole nother level of stress. Let's go into another topic.
Yeah.
How about beard guy?
What is that?
Nothing's out of. I mean, sure.
It's
We'll
a
do-
hack 'em up, kill 'em game that you
Yeah.
just, it's kind of cool.
I only play dating simulators.
There's literally.
so-
There's literally not. Well, I'm not gonna ever say no, ever. Wandao. Ooh. Three Kingdoms. Oh, cool. I love Three Kingdoms.
Unfortunately, my Dynasty
Yeah,
Warriors
I mean,
has got
literally,
them,
we're
so-
not going to ever tell you no. There's always a chance. There's always a reason. Get enough friends together, request it, make some noise. The next time people say, "Oh yeah, it's a great idea," it keeps going. Ugh, what's that guy? Crispy guy? What's your question, sir?
Just because you ask, I'm gonna say no, just on purpose.
Yeah, that is the only no, actually. I think. How about right here in front?
What's something that you would really, really like to make that isn't a sword?
Oh man, we do get stuck making mostly swords. Go ahead, you say something.
I'll be honest. I mean, everyone knows I'm a Games Workshop fan. I'd love to do one of the Primarch hammers. Besides swords, I really like polearms. So for me, having a nice big 6-7 foot hammer off of one of those characters would be like, yep, that's what I'd like to do. Yep.
Oh, so many damn questions. You guys are curious
Second
people.
row, funny hat, right?
Yeah, I like it.
I was just wondering, after you guys do the build, what do you do with them?
We can bring them to
Eat them.
conventions. We bring them to conventions like this. Bring them to conventions like this. Defy Media in the first few seasons, they own the rights to the weapons, so a lot of them are back in LA, either in storage or around the office. It's kind of funny when I get to actually go out there, which is rare. They walk around the office and people have like that's the Assassin's Creed freaking Phantom Blade, like sitting on top of your file cabinet. He's like, oh yeah. There's Kill Bill swords, like, hey, there's Kill Bill. I'm like, don't you guys ever have like heated arguments in office? Because this is how you get on the news for not great things. What is it? You got a question from the stream? What is it?
I'm intrigued as to what the Holy Grail is in each of their respective disciplines from I Make Stuff on the
Ugh,
stream.
the Holy Grail.
Armor discipline would be a Negroli helmet or shield, for example. Like you can Google Negroli, and stuff will come up that looks crazy. From the sword maker's discipline, any of the
stuff is pretty far up there.
it is far up there, but it's considered high art and has been considered high art since the 10th century. So that's pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, I mean, like the Holy Grail stuff for like, us like grinders is either big, like big flamberge, two-handers, stuff like that, or small and super intricately detailed.
Multi-folded,
crazy stuff like that. Yeah. Or something like I hadn't really done that much of. We made a good friend of ours. We made a straight razor for her husband for Christmas. Okay, yes, like I said, I have ground thousands upon thousands of sword blades. Make a straight razor that is whole new geometry you have to learn. You think you can just hollow grind it. It's not. It's not just a hollow grind. It's a hollow into a flat, and it has to be super thin. And if you do a lot of the polishing after the heat treat, if you even get it slightly overheated, you've ruined it because it has to be sharp. It has to retain an edge, or what's the point of a razor? So something like a tricky hollow ground razor kind of thing is tough. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this year or last year was learning to do the flat grinds on a flamberge, because this one decided to make me do it out of aluminum for the first time. And going, here, don't mess this up, this is for Disney. Okay. And I mean, you guys have seen the show, you've seen our grinders.
up.
Aluminum goes quick.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily the lightest hand person at times.
No.
So, yes, I could have produced a
You
few
got
diamonds
it.
that
It was
day.
okay. It's okay.
Big burger hands.
For me, it's
Actually, let's get somebody who hasn't asked a question. Go ahead. What?
for me, in a lot of
Ference wants to
parts,
talk.
parts,
Ference.
what I do is, in the carving, it's, part of it is just the carving because it's a total subtraction process. I don't have malleable shift, I don't have addition and everything else. So for me, like that Holy Grail is having the original carving as the end result, because that one process thing, there's no going back, refinishing, touching up, adding anything, changing anything. It's from the beginning of the subtraction process, you see the end result from the first step.
I see that. Yep. Another little question from the stream, and I think I can answer it with even asking Ilya, is how much is a Tahamagane, Tahamagane sword per inch?
The cheapest I can do currently is $150 per inch of blade.
Yeah. And that's not making much money, folks. That's
No.
working hard. That's working $10 an hour. Yeah. Wig. Yep. Unless that's your real hair, I apologize.
You use a lot of tools, a lot of techniques, crazy stuff throughout your show. For all of you, what's something like a tool or technique that you haven't used yet that you would like to touch upon on a future project?
I mean, there's lots of I'd like to touch them.
I'm not gonna say it.
There's
It's a bad year.
There's a
for that.
lot of things. I mean, look, we got a big shop, but it's not that big. We have a lot of tools. We haven't
you said
used. We haven't
tools.
done anything with induction. That could be fun. It's always, I love induction. I think it's cool. You could show how that works.
We haven't done shear steel for any of the
We haven't
historical
done
stuff.
shear steel. I'd like to do that, which is basically turning wrought iron into a usable blade material, stuff like that. I mean, as far as tools go, I mean, we have a lot of tools. It's hard not to have them. What you'll see in the episodes, we incorporate stuff over and over. Like we used a rolling mill, which we don't really ever use anymore, but we used it for
Twice.
a couple things. Yeah, we used it twice. We got some variable speed sanders now, so we can do a little bit nicer grinds on some of the smaller stuff, like the Halati dagger on the TV show. That was really cool.
Yeah, I
So
think
I-
I just had, Ilya just made me my first chisel set for doing like what everyone saw on the Knights of Avalon Excalibur sword. So I can now sit at home, start playing with that, and I've never done any of that before. Thank you. I love you too.
Good luck with that. And back there. Yep. All right. Personal favorite. Start at Ference this time.
My personal favorite is more like a Yatagan. I like the old Hungarian sabers and stuff, but that's because they're close to my heart.
Were you asking like what our favorite is, or like build that we did? Okay. I like me a hammer.
Yeah, pretty much.
I like me a big hammer on a big stick. I like to go ahead and hit people right there in the head. Not
As
that
much as I do like swords, I'm more of a polearm fan. So when it comes to hammers, but I guess for bladed, glaives are really cool, or any of those type polearms. I mean, if you think about it, the same thing kind of passion you put into a sword, you can put into a polearm. It's just you got a longer reach. During El Rey, when they did like the Chinese G, here you are, you have a spear. You also have two edges on the side that you can either cut with or grab with. I mean, it's not just a single tool. You've got reach. You can get it shorter. There's just so much to it that I enjoy them.
I prefer HK-45 silence with an extended mag. That's just me.
My gun sword.
That's a good one. I only have the airsoft version, but it still goes pew. I might shoot it in the house sometimes.
Sometimes.
If I had to, dude, I don't know what my favorite is. I mean, I love the Japanese stuff. I love the artistry that goes into it. Kind of my specialty these days, and I never chose it. It just kind of happened that way because I do them so often, is Gladius. with the full, like wooden hilt or bone handle, stuff like that. I like them. I do them very well. I do them all freehand on the sander, all the wood, everything. So kind of become my specialty, and I haven't really got to show that at all on either of the shows yet. So hopefully that becomes a thing at some point.
Early on, someone asked the question about practicality of X amount of percentage of swords that we have. Well, I'm of the opinion, since no army is actually armed with the sword as the standard issue arm, no swords are practical. So, what is left to look in swords is that they are works of art. Which brings me to the fact that Japanese swords are my favorite because they've been seen as a work of art for over 1,000 years, and a sophisticated system of appraisal and appreciation has been developed over 1,000 years as serious high art. And because practicality is no longer a question, I immediately bracketed it away. It doesn't matter how big or small, thin or thick the blade is, so long as the artistry is there.
Yep.
Yes.
What do I got here? Somebody asked on the stream, are there any builds that are requested that we just say absolutely no to? I gotta tell you, many of the things that we have made, I said no so many times. We said no to Scissor Blade all the way up to the second we made it, because there just wasn't a cool way to do it, It was like we were just gonna plasma cut a scissor and grind it, and it's just stupid. So we came up with a way to do it. Another one that we really want to do that's complicated, it's gonna take a lot of time, is Chaos Eater. I mean, it's awesome, right? We love Chaos Eater. Big sword, got a lot to it, but we have to have some pre-built time, and it's just one of those things.
Actually,
we said
Didn't
no
we say
to
no to Great Sword of Artorias?
we said no to Great Sword of Artorias many times. We said no to anything from Berserk, and we did it. So, I mean, Ruby's Scythe also. We said
there's a big one.
We're not going to do that, but we're probably going to do that. So
He
there's
said
that.
no to Prime Sword, and
Right
you see
here.
where that is.
Yep. We definitely said no to Prime Sword.
I know you said that swords aren't practical, but I'm curious because I'm kind of still nerd. Like, what the composition of a sword as a secondary weapon to a rifle? How would you build it, or even a short sword, maybe a one-handed sword, that you would carry to combat? Because there are situations where people have had to go to the sidearm and a pistol, or like a knife and a pistol, like the Legion would be first one in. So what would you carry? What would be your composition?
Well, I got to tell you, if you want personal opinions, we can give those real quick too. I've made 2 different pieces that have been used on a battlefield. And they were both the exact same thing. They were an oversized giant sax knife, basically. So you have a blade, but it also can work as an axe. And this was 2 Navy SEAL guys who mounted them upside down on their back so they could draw this way. So it wasn't in the way. There was nothing like banging around on your hip. So I have to, and those were 2 very separate orders that I had no influence on. They both came to me and asked for it. I think we've done some other stuff that have been used.
Actually,
Wasn't
we
there
wanna
like a
make
bunch
one all
of
the time.
tactical, the wakizashi that was made for the...
Usually people are going to want something tactical, so you don't want anything gaudy that can catch on your clothes. Something very...
Kukris are still used to this day with the Gurkha regiments.
Here we go. Here we go with the kuka.
Yeah, I know, it's a boomerang. whatever.
Kukadork.
Not a
He loves
sword,
his
a
cookies.
knife. There's a difference.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
usually you're
it's-
going to want something that can do multiple things.
Yeah.
You don't want a thin blade that can snap. You want something that can cut. You want something that you can cut your way out of a situation, but also beat the shit out of a door if you got to get in it that way,
I mean, there are some guys still using tomahawks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I own a guy's tomahawk, Mark Mancoon. Yeah, I own one of his. He makes stuff for armed forces, and they use it all the time. Yeah, I have one of his literally in my living room, and it's cool.
With making more historical pieces, is it more of a staying true to form and function, or the traditional ways of forging?
Both. That's the thing. With the TV show, not only are we just like making weapons and swords, we're usually making them from like more obscure cultures, like that's their thing. What's the point? And then their big thing is testing them at the end. What's the point of testing an Iron Age piece where I make them out of modern W2 steel and give it a perfect heat treat? So we make it out of iron on the TV show. Like literally, we made our own iron, forged it out of it, and then tested it. Don't really see the point of doing it any other way, to be honest.
Well, at a certain point, the methods that we consider traditional were the most functional methods available in time. So
You have a question?
that is the functional way. So if you want to see a Viking sword made the Viking way, that's the way the Vikings found functional. Correct? Correct. If you want a Viking-like object being made out of modern steel, it will perform better than what you think the Viking sword would have performed, but we don't fight with swords anymore, so we don't really know.
Oh my gosh, this is the most frequently asked question. And will you just answer it one day?
Yeah, go on.
What are you listening to on your headphones while you forge all damn day?
I'm not going to tell you.
I know
an
you're
answer.
not.
It's an answer.
That is the answer. Sorry, guys. We tried almost every Ask a Blacksmith show we've done that we've tried to answer that. But literally at our shop, it could be anything from Megadeth to Eminem to freaking Frank Sinatra and
I
everything
hate
in
Frank
between.
Sinatra, by the way.
Not just him necessarily,
I
but all of us have really different music tastes. And
I said, I remember back in.
I've caught him like listening to like growly scream metal stuff, and then I've heard him like
It's European black metal. It used to be a classic at a certain time. Okay.
I was going to say, back in the oil mill, I used to walk in sometimes in the morning and Carrie's had Madonna or Sinatra blasting, and I'm like, this is going to be a good day.
Michael Jackson was a very
Yeah.
common thing. Michael.
Michael Jackson.
Any other?
I am a trained painter, you know that.
That's what he does. He's better at that than he is anything else. Talks pretty much. I mean, he almost never works with metal.
You know, yeah. On the show, I don't work with metal a whole lot. My work with metal is gets varied a whole lot in being incorporated into different things. But I work in, gosh, a plethora of different mediums. Very big medium for me is stone, marble, granite, limestones, and on a large scale. Working in the bones and everything, and going back to what we the question and talking about on the El Rey show and doing things traditionally, function and form, or using making it a certain way. It's like Kerry calls me up and he says they want to use a traditional material for the odd build. I said, well, okay, the wood's not a problem because it's, we still have that indigenous, so I can get a hold of it. But if you really want to use traditional bone materials in these things, then we either need to get some serious licensing and permits, or I'm going to have to go around and find some alpaca.
Seen the guy at the land center.
Which I did.
Should have seen the guy at the land
I
center.
actually spent about a week, and I remember calling Kerry up one day and send him a message, and he says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm digging it up at alpaca in a field right now." So
15 minutes later, roadkill is in the trunk. We're good to go.
The things we do for fans.
You're welcome. Ish.
You got a question there? 4 minutes.
4
We got
minutes.
4 minutes left? Who's next? Oh, who's the next panel? We don't really. We're going to stay.
3
Just
minutes.
kidding. Stand up if you've been on Man at Arms on the actual set. He slunk down in his seat. You better stand up, you big bastard. Hi. You may have seen him swing some of our heavier stuff before. I made Bill do a lot of that. He's big. All right, guys. We only got a couple minutes left. Maybe one quick question. Who's got a quick one? Honestly, don't lie to me. Luigi. No. Who's got another quick one? Spider-Man, old school Spider-Man.
Real quick, got a request.
Yeah.
From Big Zero, Rider's Sword. It's a gladius. It actually dovetails into my next question. For type of gladius.
It means something big. The skinnier stuff, just it's easy. Like big wide blade, having to make that distally tapered and diamond ground. That's the the fun of it. It's the challenge. So you do I usually grind my blades first, then I get the blocks of wood, mill the slots in them, hand sand those. But yeah, it all starts with the challenge, I guess. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys can come down at any point in time to our booth down there in the merchant hall, where at least one of us is almost always there. Ask questions. Tomorrow we have another panel. That'll mostly be Ilya doing history versus fantasy, some mix of that. He gets really preachy. It's really fun. But I appreciate you guys. If you haven't checked out our YouTube, make sure you go. I stream games on twitch.tv under the name Stalkertron. So if you guys are into just some stupid stuff, and it's my gaming name. If you think it's funny, meet me outside.